Hello, everyone, religious or non religious, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the very first episode of Opinions on Opinions. And please give this episode a chance. It gets better and better as I go along. And please, at the end, spread this as much as possible. It is probably one of the most important times of recent history, and time is of the essence, so we're not going to mess about here. We are going to be diving into the Israel and Palestine conflict. If there's ever been a time to awaken and realise the world we really live in, it's now. I want to help you understand the religious views, the political views, the average human being's views, and the free thinking views. This is probably one of the most important things anyone could be doing right now. This is because real people are being killed every day. And in the moment of an interview, people lose their train of thought and get caught up in the moment and forget what is necessary to be said. Especially like Piers Morgan's interviews. For example, he asks a lady about the fact that Hamas would have known what they did on the 7th of October would have brought on the mad genocidal bombing that is happening. The lady stumbled on this question, and in the end, Piers made her look bad. My answer would have been, okay, well, imagine you're an oppressed people, literally don't have any control of what comes into your 25 by 7 mile piece of land. So everything ends up pretty dire in that situation, even having a lack of water. So the only way you can uprise against your oppressors is to commit terror. You can only form a terrorist organisation. And if you have half a brain cell between your ears, then you would know Israel is meant to be a democracy, so wouldn't be allowed under international law to be doing what they're doing. But hang on, the US says it's fine, so it's fine. Is Piers a shill? And if not, what the heck? I've always liked Piers Morgan, but he's wrong on every single level in this. Astonishing that they even try to convince you it's alright and just defence. What a joke, what hypocrisy. We can learn so much from this subject, and hopefully together we can show one another that we are all from one, brothers and sisters. To think any other way is a limited mindset. We are divided by race, religion and nationality. All these things are created by us, and without us they wouldn't exist. It's a choice. We don't have to live within separation. We are all born with fitra, a natural goodwill, and an instinct of morality. And together we can change the world tomorrow if we change our limited mindsets and build an understanding of one another and the other subjects I've already just spoken about. Let's learn to live in unity with one another. Wherever you are born, you are conditioned in society to just follow. You become a sheep. They take away your birthrights to be able to question things, to think for yourself. You'll end up creating an image of what society wants you to be. And in the end, all sheep end up in the slaughterhouse. You need to be courageous, and transcend into your true authenticity, knowing you do have the ability to create the world you live in and think for yourself. Live in society, but learn a better understanding and find a creative way not to participate. And stay away from destructive things. This channel will also help you build a personal view of geopolitics around the world and what the goals are of various different countries. Me personally, I'm a free being, so I class myself as impartial, and I find all loss of life tragic. No matter where you're from, loss of life is tragic. I don't live within the borders or see ourselves as divided, nor do I class myself as Jewish, Christian, Muslim, but completely understand and respect all religions. So here on this channel, you really will get an unbiased opinion. To be honest with you, this is exactly what the journalist should be doing, but doesn't seem to be happening. And to be honest, it's hard for me to pick where to start with all this. However, I feel it's appropriate to start with the Palestinian ambassador for the UK, Hussam Zomlot. He has done his job fantastically well throughout all of this. In this first clip, I'm showing you an interview of Dr. Zomlot. He tells the BBC News that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is guilty of the liquidation of an entire nation. If you wanted an ambassador for your country, you would like them to be Dr. Zomlot. This video I'm about to show you is from 9 years ago, before the Hamas terror attacks. So I thought it's important to see that this has been going on regardless of the terror attacks. It's important because I would like to show you all sides of this. But before we begin, I want to say that this is not the most refined channel in the world, but I'm trying to bring you content quickly and authentically. So there will be no editing here. But just remember, I'm not against any religion. Anyway, let's begin.
Hamas. This war is against the entire Palestinian people. It did not start in Gaza. It started here in the West Bank, in Hebron, in Jerusalem. You've seen we have no rockets here, my friend, in the West Bank. We have no tunnels here in the West Bank. Yet Israel kills every day, including today, Palestinian children in the West Bank. And therefore we have to call a spade today. What Mr. Netanyahu is engaged in is the liquidation of an entire nation by targeting on purpose our children, our women, our power plants, our electricity, even our humanity. So we need to stop this Regev from spreading venom as if we want our children to die. No, sir. For the last 70 years, we have been fighting for life.
Fighting for life. He's literally defending what he believes in, and he literally should be the Palestinian Prime Minister. It's true. Why are they bombing the West Bank? Huh? Why Israel? But what is really scary in all of this is the lack of empathy for the loss of human life by the West. When we talk about being depopulated, this makes it seem like it could happen. And now we will move on to the next video. Let me just get it up here.
פה סוף הדרך, פה זה מה שנקרא סביוני חברון. הארמון של דוד המלך, אוויר, עצי זית, עצי פרי, הנוף של כל חברון. הכי טוב.
והערבים פה לא עושים בעיה?
אם עושים, אז אנחנו, להפך, זה האתגר, אנחנו לא הגענו לגן עדן. יש עבודה, צריך לעבוד. ויש שתי חלונות פונים לצד ההוא של העיר, רואים את כל החברון, אז שכנה שלי קוראת לזה חלונות מוטיבציה. אבל מסתכלים, פותחים בבוקר את החלון, רואים מה עוד יש לעשות. למה כל עוד אנחנו רק פה ולא שם, אז זהו. הבית הזה, בית של ערבים בינתיים, ויש פה עוד בית שהיה של ערבים.
Not a care in the world for the Arabs. This is their view.
אז זה הזמן התייהד.
كلنا رايحين على البيت. بديش اسكر البيت.
תסגרי את הדלת.
تدخليش انت.
תסגרי את הדלת. תסגרי את הדלת. תסגרי את הדלת.
ما بديش اسكر البيت.
לשבת פה
لا لا وفي بيتها
شو دخلت؟ ليش انت بدي
תסגרי את הדלת.
ما بدي ادخل البيت. ليش يعني بدي اتصل بالشرطة. شو جابك انت على هالصبح الله شو بتعمل؟
Right. That's disgusting. This is not religion saying whore. These are like atheist Zionists. You know, you get three different types here nowadays, branches of Judaism. And here they are, the Orthodox, which are very strict, the Conservative, which is kind of strict on their religion, and then you've got the Reform, like the Zionists, barely even believe in God. You wouldn't even be swearing. Even in England, we have people who label themselves as Christian but never even have been near a church, let alone read a Bible or vaguely understand the religion. This is how the Israelis, in all of the videos I've watched, come across. Using language like this is not nothing religious. Zionists are not necessarily Jews. Tony Blair is a Zionist, and he's definitely not Jewish. Zion atheists, like Netanyahu, use Judaism to manipulate. They say they are the chosen ones and God promised them this land. That's the only argument they have for being there. Also, they are meant to be a democracy, which means they shouldn't have any hypocrisy in regards to who can live there, even though it shouldn't really be there in the first place. The rule are one for them and another for the Arabs. The Balfour Treaty just proves who runs our monetary supply. Other religions which don't Other religions which don't worry, I won't talk about Judaism because we're not allowed since World War II. And you can easily be accused of being anti-Semitic. But you can find out for yourself by reading the Old Testament or check out my upcoming video on the Bible in 16 minutes. Hit the notifications buttons and you'll be notified. The other Abrahamic religions believe all of what the Jews believe, but believe there was more added to the story as time went on, i.e. Christians believe Jesus was the Messiah. That was mentioned in the Old Testament. Jews rejected this as Jesus completed the prophecies in 2 parts. And if he was the true Messiah, he would have done it in 1. So they said his teachings was blasphemy. So he was crucified, which is where we get the word excruciating from. Muslims believe in Jesus as a prophet and believe Muhammad was the last prophet. They were told to only worship God himself. Zionists don't believe anything. They use the excuse that God promised the land to them and sod all other religions. Christians and Muslims accept everybody. Zionists hate everybody else. The Canaanites lived on the land of Canaan first, as in the Bible. Palestinians and the descendants of ancient Canaanites, or the Jebusites, and others who inhabited the land before the ancient Israelites, as seen in the Bible itself, can be understandably annoyed that Britain gave this land to the people and basically forced out the natives by force. Without Britain, they wouldn't have been able to do this. So their arguments don't even make sense in the first place. And if you ask any Orthodox Jew, they will tell you they're not even allowed a state of their own. They're meant to spread across the globe and help spread the word of God. Let me show you quick.
As we see this last Saturday, it was shocking to the world, but the world doesn't seem to take in regard the 75 years that every day almost you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. It's not how I personally look at this. It's how, as a Jew who's observant, who's following the rules of the Judaism, of the Torah, Judaism is subservience to God. That's what it's all about. It's a religion of 3,000 years, while Zionism is a mere 150 years. It's a transformation to nationalism, to have a piece of land. It's a political movement. It's a materialistic movement. It was started by Jews who were non-religious, and they're simply incorporating, using the name Israel, using the Star of David, and claiming that it's a God, it's given to them by God. And we who are following the Torah, who are true to the Torah, stand up adamantly refuting what they're saying. The Torah clearly states that we shall not kill, we shall not steal, and the whole concept is strange, is totally antithetical to our teachings, contradictory. The Jewish community had been living together with the Muslim community and the Christian community, and since this movement started, and since they gained hold in the land and eventually got rule over the land, there's been endless bloodshed. There's hate that has grown thousandfold. It's a wedge driven between the Jews and the Muslims, and it's brought death and suffering to the Palestinian people in the majority, but to the Jewish populace also. As we see this last Saturday, it was shocking to the world, but the world doesn't seem to take in regard the 75 years that every day almost you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. We say this is clearly a rebellion against God, and it hurts us more than usual because it's being done in our name. And the rabbis you are seeing, the power bases that you are seeing in the settlements that is fringe to the Jewish communities, those are the ones who bought into this tale that it's God's wish. But the central part of Judaism, the very religious, in whatever country, maybe in Argentina, the very religious says, no, we're dead set against this. We cry with the Palestinians. And therefore, what's happening today in Gaza, that they're bombing them relentlessly, and they're pointing and they're accusing them of being animals. It's even hard to repeat, and whatever they say of them, of being terrorists, it's not. It's just. It's all to cover their totally illegitimate occupation.
Exactly that, like about the 40 babies being beheaded. Not one bit of evidence of that happening. All these women being raped. So they cross the border, they attack all these people in a music festival, and then basically start raping women in Israel. Absolute bullshit. You're not going to halfway through an invasion start, oh right, let's just have a quick bonk over here, are you? It's fucking ludicrous again. Crazy.
And to that, I'll bring a simple proof. We lived together, the Jewish community, for hundreds of years in Palestine, in Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Iran, in all the countries we lived and flourished as religious Jews amongst religious Muslims without any human rights groups to protect us. We always lived together. We babysat each other's children, even though we have a distinctly different religion. And it was never a cause of animosity. All that changed is the introduction of Zionism, the control of the land. And since that came, which is not 1948, it's in the 1890s or so, and they started coming in and...
That's exactly it. All Muslims believe all true Jews are Muslim. Yeah, Muslims just led on. True Jews, they might not accept Jesus, which is where they've stopped with their religion. They're still waiting for their Messiah. But they're still accepting of all people, like he said, yeah. They don't kill, they don't steal, all of these things. They don't swear like I just did, which I do apologise for my profanity, to be honest, for all the listeners out there. But that is the truth. Anyway, we're going to move on from this video, yeah, because I haven't got a lot of time. So we're going to move on to the next one. So let me show you this one quick. And I'm sorry about this because it's a short video, so for some reason I can't move this on my bloody screen properly, so it's going to be a bit difficult, this one, but I will try and do my best for you to be able to see it. I can't even move it up any more than this. Anyway, let's just listen to it far away and then we'll move on.
عم بضربوا فينا قاعدين بالعصي كسرونا وحتى الأجانب ضربوها. ايه مسكاني انا بكسر ايدي استنى انا مسكاني انا اكسر راسه انا اكسر راسه ولاد صغار مستوطنين صغار قد رجلي. امشي.
So in this, he's basically attacking tourists which are being taken round by a Palestinian. So because they're with a Palestinian, he started attacking them. You know, he thinks he can get away with it again because he's in Israel, and who has their back? All of the Israeli soldiers and the authorities out there. Right, anyway, let's move on to another video just quick. Make sure I get this back in the shot.
Israel is one of the most racist countries in the world. While you'll never hear anyone in the mainstream media say this, this is actually one of the most important things you need to understand if you want to know what's happening right now. From its inception, the whole idea of Israel as a country was based on racism. Israel was conceived as a Jewish state, and while there's nothing wrong in principle with Jews having a homeland, the problem is that they insisted that that homeland had to be in Palestine, which already belonged to someone, the Palestinians. The slogan of Israel's founders was "a land for a people without a land." But deep down, they all knew that the only way to have a Jewish majority in Palestine, an Arab country, was to expel the Arabs. One of the founders of Israel, Yosef Weitz, wrote, "There's no room in the country for both peoples. There's no way but to transfer the Arabs from here to neighboring countries." Israel was quite literally founded by expelling and massacring hundreds of thousands of Arabs in a years-long process called the Nakba. And when you found a country based on racial exclusion, you're gonna get a culture that fosters and celebrates racial exclusion. Because countries that commit terrible atrocities rarely acknowledge committing those atrocities, and the presence of Palestinians who remained in Palestine became a constant reminder not only of the violence that founded Israel, but of the constantly looming threat that they might come back and try to reclaim their land. Every day you can find videos coming out of Israel showing Israelis calling for all Arabs to die, insulting the Prophet Muhammad, desecrating mosques, spitting on Christians, mocking and celebrating the murder of Palestinians, committing violent hate crimes against Palestinians, watching Gaza get carpet bombed from a cliffside for entertainment. But don't just go off these anecdotes. Let's look at some of the polls. One poll found that 2/3 of Israeli teens believe Arabs to be less intelligent, uncultured, and violent. It also found that 50% of Israelis wouldn't live in the same building as Arabs, wouldn't befriend Arabs, wouldn't let their children befriend Arabs, and wouldn't let Arabs into their homes. Another poll found that 60% of Israeli Jews want segregation from Arabs. Another poll found that half of Israeli Jews agree with the statement, "Most Jews are better than most non-Jews because they were born Jews." The poll also found that 88% of Israeli Jews would be disturbed if their son befriended an Arab girl, and 90% would be disturbed if their daughter befriended an Arab boy. This poll found that about half of Israeli high schoolers don't think Arabs should have the right to vote. Another poll showed that almost half of Israeli Jews don't want Arabs teaching their kids. Not only are these views widely held in Israeli society, they're also represented in government, which codifies these sentiments into law. For example, Israel has a law that says if an Israeli marries a Palestinian, or someone from several other regional Arab states, that person isn't allowed to move in with said Israeli. This law was passed in 2003, but it's been renewed every single year since. Israel also doesn't allow interreligious marriage to be performed in the country, which is meant to deter Jews from marrying non-Jews. In 2018, Israel passed the nation-state law, a law which has constitutional status, which says the right to exercise national self-determination, i.e. have rights, is the exclusive right of Jews, no one else. There's also the Nakba law, which makes it illegal to acknowledge the Nakba, the expulsions of Palestinians that were needed to found Israel. This would be like passing a law to make it illegal to talk about indigenous genocide or slavery in America. There's also the Admissions Committee law, which basically allows towns to operate panels that deny applications for entry based on socio-cultural compatibility, which essentially just legalizes racist housing discrimination. In Israel, advocating genocide of Palestinians doesn't hurt your chances of holding a high position in government. And in fact, in many cases, it helps. In 2014, Israeli lawmaker Ayelet Shaked wrote an unhinged rant on Facebook, calling all Palestinians enemy combatants and saying their mothers should be killed for giving birth to, quote, little snakes. The next year, she was appointed Minister of Justice by Benjamin Netanyahu. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a lifelong admirer of Meir Kahane, an Arab exterminationist, a man who praised a Jewish settler who killed a Palestinian for throwing a rock at him, a man who was famously acquitted after being criminally charged for chanting death to Arabs, is Israel's current Minister of National Security. He's not some fringe figure either. He's one of the most popular politicians in Israel right now. In the last few days, Israel's been working hard to cast itself as the victim of hatred, the victim of terrorism, the victim of anti-Semitism, that they have no choice but to lay siege to Gaza. But underneath this carefully concocted victim complex is a racist, Jewish supremacist state that's been trying to finish the job that the Nakba started for decades. And really, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. After all, they're literally cutting off water and electricity to a city of 2 million people right now. Their generals talk openly about flattening Gaza and killing the animals, meaning Palestinians. It's obvious their goal is genocide.
Right, that's that video done. Well, what you have to understand, yeah, is Israel are the oppressors, so the Palestinians, yeah, are only trying to defend themselves. And it's the British that made it all possible. And to be honest, without the British, there was no chance. And it being God's will helping people settle there is ludicrous. Didn't happen. It was all the British. And although they like to try and play God, they're not God. I live in the most multicultural city in Britain, and I can tell you Islam is a peaceful religion. There are many rules to follow, to respect one another and look after women. They will only shake hands with their right hand. They use their left hand to go to the toilet. That in itself is thoughtful. Not allowed to use profanity, which makes you have to think it's more sophisticated words to use. They make sure that their wife has more money, has money of their own, and many other things which I won't list everything, but there's just a few examples. Let's have a look at this video then just quickly. Again, it's another short, so I'm sorry it's like this, but we'll have to make do, unfortunately. Right, anyway, let's go.
Making fun of him for thinking Saudi Arabia is better than New York, but he then silences them.
You lived in Saudi Arabia for 19 years and you say that?
Oh my God.
You'd rather live in Saudi Arabia than New York.
You guys don't have a clue.
No?
You don't have a clue.
So, by the way, Quincy
comparing
loves
Saudi Arabia to New York City, bro? Enlighten me, because I'm like,
Well,
You need some serious
were you living
enlightenment.
in a
Please go visit.
Were you living in a palace?
Like, you're talking zero crime rate. You're talking zero taxes. You're talking amazing amenities, fantastic infrastructure, incredible communities, fantastic schools. The company you work for paying for your child's education up to college level. You're talking about free healthcare. What I'm talking about is the whole country. They're extraordinarily low crime rates. Like you are safer in any Saudi city than you are in any major city in the U.S. by miles. Not even comparable.
These guys.
Right, there we go. So basically, take Saudi for an example of an Islamic state. Zero crime. You know, they pay for your children's education. Everything there to be able to use the amenities like the gyms and stuff like this. They're all brand spanking new, well kept, clean, everything. All right, go and visit, have a look at Saudi. Amazing country, unbelievable. Right, and most importantly, they are only allowed to attack when they've been attacked or under threat to defend themselves or robbed, etc. There is no just going and mass genocide and killing people. All right, that's the Islamic faith. You know, there's a lot more to it, obviously, but again, it's just a quick example. And this is the fact. But Israel's chance to defend themselves was at the borders on the 7th of October, and they didn't. And to be honest, they have to be embarrassed they didn't. They allowed Hamas to breach the borders and do what they did. They should have been defending the borders. That's the whole point of having a border. It's the same as the Americans allowing 9/11 to happen. How does a plane fly all the way through Manhattan and not even be noticed by the intelligence or the National Security Agency? Not knowing anything about it at all. It's embarrassing to think that even happened and was allowed to happen. But then again, we all know why that was allowed to happen. Right, I'm going to move on to the next section of this episode, and it's my first episode, so I do apologise about all my vocabulary and everything today. And honestly, I've just come off of a night shift, so I am a bit tired. Anyway, I don't need to justify myself or explain myself. You must spread this video though. We're getting as much information out there as possible, and everybody needs to be doing this. Right, I just want to show you the Piers Morgan video very quickly on this woman. I've got so much better content to come out as well. I've got so many videos I want to show you. I've got so many things I want to break down and show you. But anyway, let's start with this one quick. This is quite a long video, so I hope you stay with me for this amount of time. It says 15 minutes, but I don't know, we might skip through. Let's see what the start is. I know at 11:22 is what I really wanted to show you, to be honest with you, was about this point here roughly. So we'll just have a look at it
From
starts.
Cairo by Ratma Zain, whose powerful message has gone viral online. Ratma, thank you very much indeed for joining me. We've got a slight delay in the connection between us, so I'm going to ask you questions and give you time to answer them rather than try and talk over you, because that isn't going to work given the delay. So let me just ask you first of all. You were on CNN. I know Clarissa Ward, the correspondent that you were very passionate towards. In my opinion, having worked at CNN, she is one of the best foreign correspondents in the world, and I felt absolutely has tried to straddle this very tricky line of reporting fairly and accurately on what is a horrendous conflict. When you look back at yourself in that exchange with Clarissa, how do you feel about the way that you addressed her? Do you have any regret? Or do you feel you could have expressed yourself differently? Or do you feel it accurately represented how you were feeling?
I'm not going to waste my time talking about the report with Clarissa. Because this takes away from the point you mentioned before. There was a deadlock in the debate. There's no deadlock in the debate. There is terror in the debate. You are unable to debate with Israel because what's happened so far is we're witnessing the sick relationship between the United States and Israel, where basically the United States has given a permission for Israel to
And just very quickly, yeah, but United States has an invested interest in Israel. That's their stronghold in the Middle East. You know, that's their way to have nuclear bombs there and all sorts of various other things. You know, and also the Zionists. You got to remember the Zionists, yeah, probably run all of the banks, yeah, in America. There's even conspiracy theories, yeah. I think it's called like Zog or something like this, and it's basically about how Zionists run the world. And again, we'll get into that in another video miles down the line. Let's worry about the situation in Gaza first. You know what I mean? We need to try and help these people somehow by spreading all of this. We need people to actually understand. We need someone to do something. You know, this is all I can do at the moment. I'm at the mercy of Britain. You know, it's like you have one day off of work, yeah, you lose your job in this country. So we're the most controlled society out there. So we can't do absolutely jack shit unless we want to feed our kids and stuff like this, right? Anyway, let's carry on a sec.
Of genocide on ground. And what's happened is we're seeing no one can say no to Israel. The United Nations isn't able to say no to Israel without repercussions. Media figures aren't able to say no to Israel without repercussions. So what ends up happening is that you're basically raising a spoiled brat you're unable to say no to, that has now grown up to be a sociopath. And let me reiterate that the relationship between the United States and Israel is putting the world in jeopardy. So what we're witnessing now is a serious issue where both parties need to reassess their relationship. I understand that Biden, because he's pitted his own people against each other and wasted billions of dollars giving them to Israel instead of looking at his own homeless, his own medical care issue, his own student loans issue. So a lot of American people are also extremely angry, and they're also looking at unfair coverage. The reason this video has gone so viral, one, it's alarming that it's gone so viral, because what should be going viral is the footage that we are witnessing out of Palestine, out of the occupied territories, of children being massacred. It's not a war. A war assumes that both parties are on equal footing.
Okay, I hear you. What I would say in response to that is that on October the 7th, Hamas, who are the ruling authority in Gaza, committed an act of such heinous terrorism, killing 1,500 people, including 260 people at the music festival.
In 1948,
let me finish, Rahma. Let me finish.
What happened?
Let me just ask.
Let me just say. The militia.
Rahma, let me just ask you the question.
No,
you have to let me ask a question. And I've been very polite to you and respectful. I've let you have your say. I'm going to say something now to you, and you can respond.
Bear in mind there's a delay, so this isn't exactly the easiest debate to have.
Well, that's why I said at the start, why don't we let me ask questions, you answer them, and that's the way this can proceed in a respectful manner. I would simply say to you that I've had a number of pro-Palestinian voices on this programme in the last 2 weeks, and a number of pro-Israel voices. Many of the pro-Palestinian people I've had on have been very quick to condemn what happened.
Which, to be fair, Piers has had different various people on there. It's just his political points of view, and that is just hypocrisy again. About anything else, he would not agree that this is okay. He just wouldn't. Honestly, I've watched Piers for many years. I've actually quite liked the bloke a lot of the time. I think a lot of the things that he has to say about people and things and different scenarios and political agendas in Britain are spot on. And he doesn't beat about the bush. But in this, jokes, mate.
Did on October the 7th. Some have not. What's your position? Before we get to what you just said to me about what Israel has done and what America's doing and so on, what is your view as someone in Egypt about what happened right on your border there in Gaza by Hamas against Israel?
Amazing news.
God's
There's a
sake. Sorry
totally
about
new
this,
and
2
different
secs.
way to make money on Amazon without selling.
It's another scam we have here in Britain, you know. It's like YouTube, you got to pay to get rid of the adverts. It's like, I'm not paying for the advertisement. I don't care. I'm never ever going to do that. You know, I'd rather not have it. Or skip the adverts like that. Anyway, so I don't know what I'm saying at. Let's crack on.
It's a very fair question. But the thing is, maybe I have a privilege being so close to the border, having many Palestinian friends, knowing more history, that I understand that once you oppress a people, and again, I'm not justifying what happened. The killing of civilians on both parts ought to be condemned. But the danger in you starting an interview, asking me to...
It's 100%. It's not even about condemning anything yet. Obviously, like, we're human beings. It's exactly what we're trying to fucking say to you, Piers. It's like we're all human beings. It's like no one wants any loss of life. All loss of life is tragic. So it's like, why the hell does Piers think it's absolutely fine to bomb and annihilate a population? Yeah, we've already said Hamas are underground. They're underground. They've built frickin' tunnels. You don't need to bomb the shit out of the civilians. Oh my days.
Them Hamas then pours into Israel's blind defense of its own state, which ends up killing over 5,000 Palestinians, over 700 dead. And going back to the report that you were discussing at the beginning with the CNN reporter, the issue with that is...
How can you deny genocide?
Everything is always taken out of context. And this is the issue we have with Western media. Had the journalist been there on ground with the volunteers that night, as for example I was, she would have listened to the bombardment of Israeli bombs that start from 2:30 a.m. and do not...
To be honest with you, I'll personally, and sorry to interrupt this lady and interrupt this video constantly, yeah, but I will stop in a second. We'll get to the point again in a minute. But it's like, I was just thinking about it. It's like, Piers is literally using this to get more viewers. He's never been this popular in his life. I'm pretty sure the last time I looked at his channel, he had like 1 million followers. He's now got another 1 million subscribers already. It's crazy, the amount of views. He's just bringing people on and receiving as many views as he possibly can for the posts of these interviews. I'm not even sure he actually... Maybe he's ignorant. And maybe he's just... Or he just doesn't care. I don't know. Right, anyway, let's move. Let's carry on. Sorry.
She would have also witnessed the fact that we would get an okay from Israel's side. I'm not done. From Israel's side, that the supplies would go in, and then it's like they toy with your morale so that for hope from both sides is stopped. The narrative has got to change.
Okay,
the idea,
I,
for example, I don't have the PR of Israel. I don't have the money to hire the Justin Biebers of the world and have them say pray for Israel and whatnot. But what I do have is the truth. And the reason this video has gone so viral is because people felt it. People felt that it was the truth.
Let me ask a question, Rachma.
And that's the truth as well. They do use people. We're manipulated constantly by television and things like this. So they try to use it to influence you. You're like, oh, why do all these lot back Israel? Am I doing the wrong thing? No, you're a human being, yeah? Free thinking. Think for yourself, yeah? What's right and wrong? You know? Do you think it's acceptable to kill Palestinians? And all the stuff they say about people is bullshit. One thing I've learned at my age now, yeah, is I've been around more than enough people, been to more than enough countries. We're all just human beings. We all just want to get along. None of us are that evil. You do have evil individuals. But you don't have evil societies. You don't have evil everybody, you know? So, anyway.
Question is this. When Hamas did what they did on October the 7th, they will have known, absolutely known, that Israel's response would have been this. And it would have involved the deaths of many thousands of innocent people in Gaza.
Oh,
as
yes,
a
this is
consequence
the
of going after Hamas.
thing I was saying
They
about
would have
earlier.
known that. So my question for you, again, a difficult question.
Oh, they would have known that. No, they wouldn't have known that, Piers. Because like I've already said, why would they have already known that? Because they think Israel is held accountable by international law and is a democracy. So they don't think they would be able to do that. Hamas kind of achieved their goals with their attack here. Look how much we're all talking about it. Look how much it's out there in the world now. Look how many people are coming forward for the Palestinians, you know? And that was the whole point of the attacks. It wasn't to bring on mass genocide on their own people at all.
I appreciate this, given that you're right there in the middle of all this. But the difficult question is, how do regular Palestinian people feel that their ruling authority commit an act of terror so heinous, and they must have known how Israel would respond, and they must have known that many thousands of innocent Palestinians would die as a consequence of...
As I just said, no, they didn't. And all the civilians of Gaza, for example, no, they're probably like just glad someone's trying to fight for their freedom. At least someone's doing something. You know what I mean? They probably don't want anybody to die either, or normal people. They can be compassionate as well. They probably genuinely didn't want that. But what other option do these guys have? You know? And to be honest, Israel should have been defending their borders. How have they got through? It's like, again, to me, it's like they must have known. They've allowed it to happen. I heard reports that it took several hours, before the IDF, if it's called the IDF, so I can't remember off the top of my head, but for the military to actually get to that border, and then it took further like 2-3 hours to secure it. Why did it take 7 hours to get there? You know? You ask these questions.
A terror attack. How do they feel about that? Are they comfortable with Hamas continuing to be the ruling authority in Gaza? Or is it actually an act of such appalling atrocity that Hamas should no longer be there? And if the answer is the Palestinian people don't want them to be there anymore, then how do you get rid of them?
Ever noticed how some people don't seem to age? I'm in shock. For anyone who hasn't heard,
No one cares about your wrinkles when people are dying.
Unfortunately, the Palestinian people don't have the luxury of the time to think of Hamas. The voice notes we're receiving from our Palestinian brothers and sisters from under the rubble, from mothers who've lost their children, from home families that have been eradicated. The sentiment we're getting from the Palestinian people is, do they see us? If the United Nations, that's whole premise was to avoid this kind of genocide, was created to avoid this kind of humanitarian...
And that's true. That is the whole point of the United Nations, is to ensure that these things don't happen. They're the law of the international world, you know? They're the law. The law means once law's written, yeah, you are not allowed to break the law. The law is the law. The offence is the offence. Things can be taken into consideration, but the law is the law. If you commit an offence, you are being done for that offence. With all aspects can be taken into consideration, so they might be more lenient about the sentencing of the offence. But that is it. The law is broken, the law is there for a reason, and if it's broken, it must be held by. You must be accountable for it, you know? Sorry.
Crisis cannot stand up to one spoiled brat of a fascist organization, then where are we in this?
And to be honest, that's the first time I've ever heard anyone call Israel fascist. They're meant to be a democracy, but it is fascist, you know? Like, when you think of what the Germans were trying to do, yeah, and like the Aryan race, wiping out of the Jews and everything, they were fascist. They literally just believed in one sort of person, one thing, you know? And wanted to take over the world. This is literally Israel. And again, why do the Palestinians have to suffer for the atrocities that Germany put on the Jewish people? It was nothing to do with the Palestinians. Go and mess with Germany if that's your problem and that's what you want to do. These guys definitely do not deserve it. Constantly been oppressed. The Zionists talk about them lot being oppressed and persecuted throughout all of their lives, including Ben Shapiro. They talk about it all of the time. What about these people? How can they have that hypocrisy? They contradict themselves all of the time. I just can't listen to what they say. Ben Shapiro, I'm not joking, I literally despise the guy now. I thought he was alright before, like in some respects, but he just debates college kids because he's a freaking idiot. He's not got a backbone, he's not even a man, honestly. He's a joke of a person, mate. And sod you, Ben Shapiro. Right, anyway.
And what's sad is that it's a top-down movement. You have the United Nations unable to speak to Israel. You also have the people at work who cannot hold the Palestinian flag, who get fired on the spot. I've had people who work in New York text me and tell me that they've been fired on the spot.
Right,
you know what else I've had that unfortunately I cannot show? Screenshots, and last thing, screenshots of emails from prominent news channels where anchors, where younger people are emailing producers, are emailing one another begging, why aren't we showing the other side? Why aren't you showing the other side? Because what's happened is that
I have to be able to respond.
Israel has given you a brand book where you can, so that you can be prim and proper in front of your own people.
I have to be able to respond,
They've been very
Rachma.
clear about their intent. They've been very clear since the Haganah.
You have to let me respond now, okay? I'm listening to you respectfully.
Well, just let her finish what she's got to say and then you can respond. That's how a conversation works, Piers. Like you were trying to patronise her earlier on about an interview. I ask the questions, you answer. Knobhead, mate.
The media. I've given more of a platform to pro-Palestinian people, including yourself, than any other show in the world. So I resent the suggestion.
It's not pro-Palestinian neither. It's pro-life, you know? Why cannot everybody live free? And when you can see something unfair or something that's been done to a peoples that should not have happened, it's like we can all say now, yeah, that World War II was absolutely disgusting and none of that should have ever happened to the Jewish people, should not have been allowed to happen. And the ironic thing is that since all of this, yeah, look at what Britain's done. They didn't want the Jewish people in Europe neither. They've allowed them to go and have a state of their own, set them up in Palestine and gone, oh, there you go, right, all of you lot, sod off over here. So the ironic thing is, even Britain didn't want them. So again, we're not going to go into World War II or anything like that, but you know what I'm saying? You've got to think about these things again. What? Answer me, somebody.
I'm just like everybody else.
Which is in itself a problem.
I have deliberately given large chunks of my show each night to voices like yours to tell the side of the Palestinians. But again, I come back to this. You talk about genocide by Israel against Palestinian people. What do you call the Hamas stated intent? They've made no secret of it. It's their stated intent to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, to kill all Jews. And that's exactly what...
Let me stop him right there as well, yeah, that's utter bullshit as well. They haven't said that they want to kill all Jews. What, they're going to travel through Europe, they're going to come to Britain, they're going to come to America, they're going to go to Argentina. No, they're fucking not, you idiot, mate. They're not talking about wiping Jews off the planet. Yeah, that's disgraceful. You're saying that. That's anti-Semitic to even be putting that into somebody's head. How can you even talk about Jewish people like that and make people recall the Holocaust and stuff and worry about this stuff? You're crazy, mate. I promise you now, any Jews listening out there, yeah, you have nothing to worry about. They're not coming after you. Alright, they've got no chance. They can barely defend themselves in freaking Gaza in 25 miles by 7 miles. They're definitely not taking over the world and they're definitely not coming after any Jews. You know, they want to wipe Israel, the state of Israel, off the planet. That's what they want to do. That doesn't mean killing everyone either. They want that nation gone. It's their nation. They should be the ones coming up with the rules. They should be the ones. And it should be a democracy. So the Jews are more than welcome to live there. Like we've said before, they lived there for many years in peace and harmony with one another. It's because of these Zionists come over, yeah, and have now killed all of them. They don't even hate Jews. No Muslim hates Jews. They know Jews are their brothers and sisters. They know Jews are the original Muslims. It turned into Islam. It turned in after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. You know, it turned into that. It's like, but before, them people were the Jews. They believe in that. They don't disbelieve that. So why are they going to want to kill their own brothers and sisters? You lunatic. Clearly knows not a lot about Islam, this bloke.
All them try to do on October the 7th. What do you call that if it's not genocide?
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software.
Oh my
where
days.
you can manage everything and anything.
Get rid of this.
But you've seen that from the other side. You know, it's interesting because this point brings one to be called and dubbed anti-Semitic. You know, I believe that Israel is the most anti-Semitic entity ever. We used to live with our Jewish brothers and...
Oh yes, she's getting to the same point I've just said. That is so freaking true. They're the most anti-Semitic people on the planet. They're not true Jews. They're not actually following a belief system. They're just using it, and they've taken one tiny little bit when they were promised the land. But then that was at a certain time. But when we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, let her speak.
Here in the Middle East and in Palestine, and the creation of Israel on a racist premise differentiated, because you didn't have Jewish Arabs or whatnot. You just had Arabs. They were Christian. They were the people of Palestine.
You're not answering my question.
They were Muslim. They were Jewish. I don't need to, because the problem is
Actually, you do need to.
Why are we having a debate? Is it not to solve? Or is this for another sensational interview? Is this a sensational interview?
It's not about sensation.
To solve? I am
You've
here
accused-
to say
you've
something
accused
clearly,
Israel of
that
genocide.
We need a ceasefire because the world is in danger.
Well,
I have
I would
accused
say
Israel of
ceasefire,
genocide.
100%. The whole world is in
And
danger.
I'm simply saying
This
to
is
you,
a genocide.
and
They
I'm
have
simply
said
saying
it's a
to
genocide.
Rahma, I hear you, and you're perfectly entitled to that view, although Israel would contest that characterization of what they have been doing, but many would agree with you. But I simply say, what is Hamas waging against Israel?
I
if
would
that's
love
not
if they would
genocide?
contest with evidence rather than terror.
They're not trying to
But
kill
do you
everyone. That's
not
not
agree with me
genocide.
that
It's a
what
terror
Hamas is
attack.
doing is clearly-
They killed
do you not
1,500
agree with
people.
me
That's
that
it. They
clearly
can't
what
kill
Hamas
any
is
more,
waging
and it's
against
tragic.
Israel is also genocide by your criteria.
It's terror.
You know what's, again, this is a dangerous debate, because what you're trying to put me in is, once I condemn...
Just asking you a question.
Once I condemn these
Look
people,
how smug he
what
is.
that then means, why is this dangerous for me? Because what that then means is that you can then answer me and tell me that Israel has the unequivocal right to defend itself, what that means is that they eradicate a people who end up being your Halloween
you're wrong.
costumes.
No.
So why
Let me
not
clarify.
put a stop to this
Let me
now?
clarify.
They're not on equal footing.
Let me clarify. Israel, like every country in the world, has an absolute right to defend itself. Right?
So what about Hamas and the Gazans? Do they not have the right to defend themselves? And alright, I know it's terror, but again, they have no other choice. They cannot do anything. They cannot wage a war against anybody. They cannot do that.
Israel has a right to defend itself. The question now...
And he is right though. Israel, because they're a recognised state, part of international law, part of the United Nations, they have the right to defend themselves by law. Yeah, because it's happened now. They are a state. But their chance to defend themselves was at the border when they were being attacked. How can you defend yourself when you're not being attacked? There's no attack left. It's done. They have hostages. They don't even care about the hostages, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing this. They would have already negotiated for something. You know, it's like Hamas said they were going to apparently kill a hostage every time a bomb went off. That hasn't happened. We don't know that that's happened yet. And did you see the old lady that was released, the 85-year-old? She's there shaking the Hamas's hand. She's got coffee in her hand. She's got biscuits. She hasn't come out and said, oh, I was madly raped by them and all of these things. All right, she was petrified. She's been taken from her country on the back of a motorcycle. She said she was hit with sticks. She probably was, you know, and I feel terrible for her. And everybody should, you know. But at the same time, they haven't done any of the things that's been portrayed by the media. And also the narratives that's been taken on by Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan's just taken these narratives and just running with them. He doesn't even know their facts. So how can you use them?
Against what? Women and children?
Let me finish my point,
please,
Rachma.
look at the evidence.
Let me finish my
How
point.
many Palestinians have died?
If you're not going to let me finish my point, you're not going to hear what I have to say. Israel has a right to defend itself. But the longer this
They did at the borders. Why is no one saying this?
goes on, the more that people are saying to Israel, what is proportionate? How can killing many thousands of Palestinians, innocent women and children, how can that be right? If what happened on October the 7th is wrong, how can this be right? And it's a very fair point to make. But my point about all of this is you want peace, I want peace. The President of the United States and Queen Rania and others saying we've got to get to a two-state solution.
A two-state solution, is he having a laugh? That is never going to happen again. The Palestinians never wanted a two-state solution yet because it's their country. The Jews are more than welcome to live in their country. But why are they going to go, oh yeah, no worries, yeah, you just have over half our country. We'll live in the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank. That's all we want. And they did. The ambassador for the UK, Zomlot again, Dr. Zomlot, he's already said that their political party in the West Bank, they agreed to all of this. They agreed to de-arm themselves and not retaliate in any sort of way. They've done all of these things. What did the Israelis do? The Israelis now, because they don't recognise the West Bank as a country or a state, it's just the West Bank to them. They send Israelis to go and settle there. They pay them, they help them, they make sure that they go and settle there. And it's like the old days. They just go there, take over some houses, bulldoze them, kick people out or whatever, and then they build a little wall around their little settlement, and they have army soldiers defending them, And where the Palestinians haven't left yet, they're terrorised with rocks, sticks, stones, swearing at them, all sorts of things happening to them, until they eventually go, do you know what? I can't cope with this anymore. And they leave. And eventually the West Bank will be a settlement of Israel if it carried on. And they're not far off of achieving that. You want to see the amount of settlements in the West Bank. Genuinely go and have I won't put it up yet because I haven't got a lot of time left. I've already gone way over. Like I say, I've done a night shift. It's now 11 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? It's taken me bloody ages to do this, to be honest with you. But, you go and have a look at that map of the West Bank, and look at the settlements, Jewish settlements. Well, Jewish, I say Jewish, but we mean Zionist settlements in the West Bank. It's near on taken over anyway. And this is why this has been brewed and led to this explosive terror attack. And what you've got to think now as well, because the PLO have sold themselves out in this way, trying to do the right thing, trying to go, all right, we'll recognise Israel as a state. You have that. And let us do the right thing to stop the Palestinians dying. They had already agreed to it. But because they've sold out, and now they can't defend themselves or do anything, Hamas have had to take something into their own account. And to be honest, the PLO, are probably not happy about all the civilian deaths in Israel, but they literally have their hands tied now. They're screwed, mate. All they have is speech. That's it.
You've got to have leadership which can be trusted by the other side. There is no way that Israel will ever trust any leadership involving Hamas. And I would say the same.
Yeah, and the same the other way. But the thing is to get rid. The only way to solve this now is to get rid of the state of Israel. Let people live there. Let the Palestinians reform their politics and how they run. Let the PLO run the country. And anyone can live there. Let it be a democracy instead of a fascist Israeli state. And I have nothing against anybody. And to be honest, I've always thought of Israel as a good thing. I had a lack of education when I was a kid. I thought Israel was nice. I thought the people were nice, and there are lovely people because they are just normal again. But the settlers and people like this, they're despicable. And the people who actually run the state and run the nation, they're despicable. Netanyahu, isn't a true Jew. He switches from Hebrew to English when things get difficult. because his Hebrew's rubbish, because he's American. He's more American than anybody I've ever met. So he definitely shouldn't be running a Jewish state.
By the way, about the Palestinian view of Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't think they trust him either. I think you need new leadership on both sides. And that's where the conundrum's going to be. How do you get to that place where it's no longer Hamas controlling Palestinians and no longer Benjamin Netanyahu in charge of the Israeli side?
And I'll be honest with you as well, just quick here, because back in the day, like in the Intifadas, obviously it started like quite tame, with like protests. Then it was like stone throwing, then there was guns, and then bombs started going off, and then you had suicide bombers. Now, suicide bombers, that is a disgrace really, but they have been attacked. And to a Westerner like me, you'd think like, Jesus Christ, he's just ending his life and he thinks he's going to paradise, but he's not necessarily. Yeah, but again, that's just being ignorant. They truly believe in their God. They put all of their stuff into their faith, and they believe in Allah, and they believe in the end times. They believe in judgment days and things like this. So in terms of like, imagine they did nothing, let all of their people die, and then they go to the afterlife to be judged on Judgment Day, and they stand before God. They're like, you let all of your brothers and sisters die. You let them. How could you? And to really get in the mind of these people who do blow themselves up and that, you never will be able to. You won't even be able to comprehend it. But when you've seen your kid blown to smithereens, or you've seen your grandma or your mother or your father, it's going to pretty much radicalise you, you know? I know if someone killed my mum, I'd be fucking fuming. And I'll tell you now, even in this country now, in Britain, when someone gets raped, like your daughter gets raped or one of your family gets killed, that family do want to kill the person who's done that. 150 million%. So we can pretend we're so much better than everybody else and politically correct in that, and we just have a better law system in the sense because we're a more developed country and a more developed democracy, that people can't get away with really doing that. But given half a chance, I guarantee they would. If someone murdered my mum, I'll tell you now, tomorrow I wouldn't give a shit. That person should be dead, you know? I wouldn't want to throw my whole life away for it yet, but God bless my mum, and I hope that never happens. But you know what I'm trying to get at?
Excellent question. You apply international law. You apply international law. You allow the United Nations to do its job. When the Hamas situation happened, for example, it was supposed to be the Red Cross to go and negotiate.
And that is the truth as well. The UN are there. They should be making sure that they uphold the law, you know. And then how it plays out is how it plays out, you know. But this is not how it should be playing out. You know, we've already lost 5,000 to 7,000 people in Gaza. I'm not even sure of the number. I just know it's around there, you know. But we're going to lose a ton more. And when this ground invasion comes, my God. And also, I need to make a video about this bloke, yeah. But also, so I'll remind myself of his name in a second, yeah. But he was recommending to use gas to gas Hamas, the ones in the tunnels. So the way to get them out of the tunnels and that. He thinks he's clever again, you know. But that's nuts. Right, anyway, sorry, I think I've got this at the end of my video anyway, so let's just carry on.
Israel is stopping all of that. On top of that, it's also terrorizing the media. On top of that, it's also terrorizing individuals. On top of that, it has money being poured in from the United States. On top of that, it has the backing of the European Union. On top of that, it has the backing of Britain that started this whole farce. So what ends up happening is who's speaking for the Palestinian people. So for a solution to happen, you need to empower the United Nations so that Israel is not making a mockery of the United Nations. How?
It is a mockery, honestly. It is an absolute joke.
Needing to reiterate this more and more. I am giving you a solution.
Right, the law in the United Nations now is we'll just make it up as we go along. Which is the truth. Again, there's so many other things we could look into and show examples of, like Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. You know, there's many things. They're just two examples. Again, I can think of many other things as well. You know, it's like we think the British Empire is gone. The British Empire did not go yet. It just turned into the city of London, the biggest financial hub in the world. Yeah, we control all that money there. You know, it's like the Romans turned into the Vatican. You know, and then we have the British royal family. Anyway, we'll get into that at a much later time after all this stuff's been resolved. Anyway, all I can keep thinking is there's people dying right now. There's things happening. It's like from 2:30 in the morning. Yeah, this place is going to be getting bombed the crap out of again. You know, all these poor kids, food, everything. It's nuts.
Come on, you're giving me your solution.
And you're still telling me Hamas.
And World War III around the corner. Which again we can explain just very quickly, yeah, but it's basically like imagine this ground invasion doesn't work out for Israel. I guarantee the Americans are going to start bombing the shit out of Gaza as well with airstrikes. They've already got an airship there and everything. So that's what will happen. And then that's going to involve other nations like Iran and everything. All you got to think is Britain, America and places like this have more nuclear bombs than anybody else. The other thing is we set up nations that are allowed nuclear bombs, but then some others aren't allowed nuclear bombs. And then you think the only other people to defend against our nuclear bombs is Russia, North Korea, China, things like this, you know. And that's the only thing that's keeping the peace, is that we all have nuclear bombs pointed at each other. But it's going off the chart now. And as soon as one of them things goes off, it's not going to be good.
Ahmed,
there will always be Hamas if you occupy a people. Let me just finish this point. If you occupy a people, if women in labor are having to give birth at checkpoints, if you're having people imprisoned, if you're having this merciless bombardment of Palestinians, you are going to breed Hamas. It starts with the stronger party.
Rahma, I've given you a long amount of time.
And this
today.
is why the jargon is dangerous.
Okay, I hear you. And I respect your right to your opinions. And I've given you the platform to air them. And I appreciate you coming on the programme. Thank you very much.
Call for a ceasefire then.
Right, anyway, I've got to start wrapping this up as well, because to be honest with you, like I said, I've been on night shift, everything, yeah, so I've got to hurry up, yeah, but basically, yeah, what Hamas did, yeah, is a terror attack and a tragic loss of life in Israel on the 7th of October, but they had no other choice, and they are not meant to be a democracy. They are classed as terrorists by Israel and many others. Whereas Israel is and must be held accountable, otherwise we're just as bad as terrorists. Internationally, we cannot have double standards or this level of hypocrisy. We just can't do it. We can't have it. They've destroyed hospitals, they've cut off fuel, medical supplies, medicines, food, basically everything. Anything that you need to import to live, they've cut off. So now when the people are bombed, or in contact with the sulfate that's coming out of some of these bombs, which are meant to create smoke screens when you're doing military operations, yeah, they burn your skin down to the bone. And not to mention the people who are being treated for cancer, or the babies in incubators who cannot even be treated, and all the power's gone and the fuel to run the hospitals. These people are all dying as well now. They're not even dying from bombs anymore, they're just dying from natural illnesses and things, and newborn babies are suffering in incubators. You're not going to let a baby die, are you? You're going to try everything for them. So they're probably suffering. They're not even like just dying, they're actually suffering. So all I'm going to say is I sincerely hope you are praying for our Muslim brothers and sisters. Even if you are not Muslim, please pray for them. And if you are Muslim, then try to give a percentage of your income to help the brothers and sisters whenever you can, whether that's in a month's time, 2 months' time, just a 10% of your income or something like this. You know, it doesn't matter how much, it just matters about that percentage, you know, and just like try and give them something when we can give them aid, when we can help them, or when we can do something. That's the best thing that you can do. And just think, people are dying right now, actual people right this second. And by the time I finish everything I have to say, and by the time I make all the videos I have and everything, the war will be over. I promise you that now. So act now. Don't wait to find out more information. Think what you can do. Make videos like this. Do something. At least try. You know? But one thing I will ask you to do, yeah, and I need you to do this because this is a brand new channel. I literally don't have one subscriber at the moment as I make this video, because it's going to be the first video. Alright, so I need you to please spread this ASAP to as many as possible. And like I say, I just don't have any followers yet, so let's do it. And do your own social media. And we cannot let Israel get away with breaking international law and killing normal people, civilians like you or I. And like I say, the son of Hamas, yeah, Mossab, is a traitor in the eyes of Hamas. But also, if there was a word I knew for something like anti-Semitic, for being against the Islamic religion, then he's that too. He's not just anti-Hamas, he's anti-Muslims. He even tried to make a video of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, trying to discredit him, trying to make him out to be some sort of paedophile nut job, you know? How is he allowed to get away with that? You know, that's not frowned upon. Anti-Semitic say one thing, but it's fine to defame Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you know? And he's now worth $5 million in his own right from selling a book and various other things. Living in the USA. And just remember, we haven't seen any evidence of women being raped or any babies that have been beheaded. There's none of this, you know? And nowadays it's easy for them to get away with chatting any crap like this, yeah, because we're so censored in these Western countries, yeah? They censor all of our internet. So you pretty much don't get these images of any of this unless you're a sick, twisted person who knows how to use the dark web and all sorts of various other things, you know? Anyway, I'm going to have to wrap it up, so I just want to say thanks for listening to me, but I'm out of time for the day. And like I said, I've just come off a night shift, so I need to get to sleep. So let's end here, alright? And thank you for watching. I wish you all peace, prosperity, and the ability to open your mind so that you can transcend into a free thinking, and live in true authenticity. Make sure to follow each episode to be able to build a picture of what I'm actually trying to get at. And also, the next episode will be on the son of Hamas, Ben Shapiro, Piers Morgan Uncensored with Ben Shapiro, the Prime Minister of Palestine, Piers Morgan and Dr. Zomlot interviews, Jordan Peterson and Netanyahu, you know, which is from years ago, but I just want to show you the type of person Netanyahu is and what he believes in, what he thinks, and the things that he says. Honestly, I can't wait to pick that interview apart. That might be a video all on its own, but I cannot wait to pick that video apart. It's nuts, mate. It is nuts. He's deluded, the most deluded man on the planet. But for now, yeah. But for now, yeah, the last thing I'm going to say, yeah, is don't forget as well, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And remember, I live in a country with free speech, so I should be allowed an opinion, and I should be allowed to talk about these things. If I get censored straight away, I'm going to move on to Rumble. But for now, much love and peace to you all. Goodbye.